You're resting against your soft pillows now, with a steady, gentle rain falling outside. Your hand rests on the edge of the wool blanket, feeling its slight weight and warmth. Perhaps you've tried many ways to find sleep, but tonight, let the rain and these words be your companions. You don't need to consciously follow the story or remember any plot. Just let the sounds pass by your ears like a distant clock pendulum and then fade away. You can close your eyes anytime, as each passage will return with a similar rhythm, like waves pulling back to the deep only to wash ashore again. Now, your breathing is gradually sinking with the rhythm of the falling rain, and the pages will gently close without you even noticing. The lambskin cover feels cool and smooth, like a moonlit lake. Your fingertips trace the raised spine and come to rest on the edge of the page. The paper smells of damp pulp mixed with the faint scent of ink, as if this book was just taken from a wooden chest in an attic. The oil lamp's glow flickers in the corner of the desk, but the light is soft, not enough to illuminate the whole room, just enough to outline the words. You hear the sound of raindrops hitting the eaves, bouncing off the metal gutters, forming a continuous, low murmur. An old clock ticks in the far end of the hallway, each swing seeming to divide the fragments of silence. The sound of turning pages is quiet, like dry leaves touching in the wind. You begin reading about a clockkeeper who lives in a stone cottage on a hill. He dusts the clock face every day and wraps the winding key in a soft cloth. His movements are always slow and steady, like afternoon shadows shifting. A clay cup sits on the windowsill, with traces of white tea steam rising from it, a warm, clear scent, like a field shrouded in morning mist. The clockkeeper occasionally looks out the window, but his gaze never fixes on anything specific. It just sweeps over where the grassland meets the clouds before returning to the rhythm of the pendulum. A humming comes from inside the clock mechanism, but the sound is muffled and distant, muted by the thick glass cover. The clockkeeper wraps a wool blanket around his shoulders and listens to the rain from dusk into the deep night. He knows there's a signal light by the railroad tracks at the edge of the plains. Its light blurs into a soft halo in the rain, but trains never stop here. Only the wind passes through the signal poles, making a sound like a sigh. The clockkeeper looks down at his pocket watch chain, the silver links gleaming dimly in the lamplight. His fingers trace the engravings on the watch cover, markings that record a similar rainy night from many years ago. The rain intensates and then lightens, like the clockkeeper adjusting the clock weights. He always pauses for 3 breaths before reaching for the brass gears. Unlit pine logs are stacked in the stone hearth, their resin scent mingling with the smell of paper and ink, but you can't tell if this smell comes from the book or from reality. Another page turns, describing the clockkeeper brewing tea. He fills a clay pot with rainwater and sets it to boil on a small stove. Steam gradually fogs the window pane, blurring the edges of the words. You feel your eyelids growing heavy, like paper pages soaked in steam, slowly sinking into darkness. In the book, the clockkeeper leaves the stone cottage and steps onto a grass path soaked by rain. The blades of grass droop, heavy with water droplets. Each step makes a faint sound, but those sounds are soon swallowed by the wind. He follows a low slope toward a maple grove. The light within the woods is dim, with only occasional spots of light filtering through the canopy. The maple leaves give off a damp, woody smell mixed with the earth's scent. The clockkeeper runs his hand over the cracks in the tree bark. These patterns branch like rivers on a map, recording the passage of seasons. His footsteps are slow, so slow they match the pace of falling leaves. There's a stone bench in a clearing within the woods, its surface covered by a thin film of water. The clockkeeper wipes the stone surface with a soft cloth and sits down to listen to the sound of raindrops falling through the leaves. These sounds are sometimes clear, sometimes muted, like different notes played on a keyboard, but the melody remains loose and repetitive. A moth brushes past his sleeve, its wing beats as faint as a breath. The clockkeeper notices the moss at the base of the maple trees, like a green velvet carpet covering the rocks. Beneath the moss might lie ant tunnels, but he doesn't investigate. He just watches the arc of water droplets rolling off the moss tips. The rain gradually becomes even, like countless fine needles falling onto felt. The clockkeeper takes a notebook from his pocket. The paper edges are yellowed and curled, the ink a pale brown like blood diluted by time. He doesn't read the specific content, just strokes the paper's texture, feeling how the raised imprints resonate with the rain. A pressed maple leaf is tucked within the notebook, its veins like a network of blood vessels in the dim light. You can almost smell the dried plant scent from the specimen, a smell that reminds you of a dusty wooden box in an autumn attic. The sound of turning pages overlaps with the rain, dissolving the boundaries of time and space. A distant clock chime sounds, but muffled by the layers of maple forest. The tone becomes soft and vague. The clockkeeper closes the notebook and heads back the way he came. His footprints leave shallow impressions in the muddy ground, but the rain quickly fills them, just as the details in the story are being erased by nature. The outline of the stone cottage flickers in and out of view in the rain. The oil lamp in the window is still lit, but its glow seems dimmer than before. The hinges creak slowly as the clockkeeper pushes the door open, but this sound doesn't break the tranquility. Instead, it's like the lingering echo of a pendulum settling back into place. He hangs up the wool blanket and sits at the table, gazing at his pocket watch. The watch hands overlap at the Roman numeral she. The pages turn to a chapter where the clockkeeper cleans the clock mechanism. He dips a chamois cloth into a small amount of oil and applies it to the gear axles. The oil gives off a faint, nutty aroma that mixes with the white tea steam into a comforting scent. The meshing of the gears is almost silent, with only a low-frequency vibration from the metal friction. This vibration travels through the wooden base to the desk and then dissipates into the air. The clockkeeper adjusts the chain of the clock weight. The chain is made of 300 silver links, each reflecting his blurred image. But these reflections are soon swallowed by the oil lamp's glow. The rain has thinned now, as if the clouds are slowly partying, but water droplets still fall intermittently from the eaves. The clockkeeper hears the distant rumble of a passing train, but the sound is softened, as if filtered through gauze, even blending into the same frequency as the clock's ticking. He walks to the wooden shelf by the fireplace. Rows of ceramic jars line the shelf, containing tea leaves from different years. He opens one of the jars, and a scent of aged plants wafts out, like sun-dried herbs. He scoops some tea leaves into a clay cup and pours in hot water. The unfurling of the leaves in the cup is extremely slow, as if time in the story is being stretched infinitely. The writing on the page begins to blur, as if the ink is bleeding from the moisture. You read that the clockkeeper picks up his teacup and walks to the window. The raindrop trails on the glass distort the outline of the planes. The signal light's halo flickers in the distance, but its glow is as faint as a dying firefly. The clockkeeper's breath forms a white mist on the glass. He wipes the mist with his palm, leaving 5 brief streaks. These streaks are like contour lines on a map, charting unseen terrain, but the mist quickly gathers again, covering all traces. The steam from the teacup still rises, but its flow slows. The clock points to midnight, but the clockkeeper doesn't wind the mainspring. He lets the pendulum swing gradually decrease, like allowing tiredness to wash over his body. The sound of the gears turning grows softer, eventually merging with the rhythm of raindrops hitting the stone steps. The oil lamp's glow wavers once, then steadies into an even dimmer state. The clockkeeper sits back in his chair. The wool blanket slips from his shoulders, but he doesn't reach to pull it up. He just watches the movement of the pocket watch hands. The hands seem to stop for a moment, yet also seem to keep moving, and the sentences on the page begin to repeat similar structures, like waves pulling back from the shore, only to wash up again. The rain has completely stopped, but water still drips from the eaves. The sound of droplets falling into the stone gutter is clear and regular. The clockkeeper blows out the oil lamp, and the room sinks into a soft darkness. Only a faint phosphorescence seeps from the pocket watch's cover, its glow pulsing with his breath, like a distant star piercing through clouds. He hears a nightingale's call from the direction of the maple grove, but the song soon fades, like ink spreading on paper. The stone cottage's door is slightly ajar. The wind occasionally pushes it, making the hinges creak, like someone murmuring in their sleep. But no one enters or leaves. Only moonlight slowly crawls across the threshold. The book is about to turn to the final chapter, but the writing is too faint to read, as if the story is fading on its own. You read that the clockkeeper puts his pocket watch back into his chest pocket and closes his eyes. His fingers rest on the arm of the chair. The sensation of his fingertips against the wood grain gradually blurring. The wool blanket is piled on his knees, its weight seeming diluted by the air. The stone cottage's outline softens in the darkness, merging with the boundaries of the plains. The distant signal light finally goes out, but this darkness isn't unsettling. Instead, it's like velvet covering your eyes. The ticking has completely stopped, but its resonance still vibrates in the air, like the lingering sound after a guitar string is stilled. The pages close by themselves. The lambskin cover gently presses down on the inner pages, like night enveloping the hills. You notice the rain in your room has completely vanished. Only the old clock's ticking echoes from afar, but that sound is also fading, like the tide pulling sand grains out to sea. The scent of damp pulp still lingers at your nose, but it's mixed with the texture of dreams, becoming light and transparent. Your hand slips from the book's spine, coming to rest in the folds of the wool blanket, and the blanket's weight feels like clouds covering your body. Your breath expands in sync with the darkness, like a drop of ink slowly spreading in clear water. You now remain in the blank space after the pages have closed. This blankness isn't emptiness, but more like the reflection on a snowy surface, softly wrapping around your consciousness. The silence after the rain has stopped is like cotton stuffing the corners of the room, and the old clock's ticking has transformed into the rhythm of your pulse. You don't need to recall the story's content or search for any metaphors, because all the sounds and images were just passing through, like cloud shadows drifting over a lake without leaving a trace. Now even these words are about to fade away, like morning mist disappearing in the sunlight. You can completely relax the muscles of your eyelids, let your breath sink into your abdomen, and then slip into a deeper tranquility, because the sleep that follows belongs entirely to you, and I will wait at the story's edge. Perhaps you'd like to tell me with a deep breath that you're ready to sleep.